Hello, Internet, and welcome to Wednesday's Serial. I'm talking Marvel books that just came in my shipment. First up, the Marvel book, Amazing Spider-Man. This is big. It's right side for my view. It's that camera flip. ASM 61. This is New Ways to Die. New Ways to Die. This is Eight Deaths of Spider-Man. Read too many Spider-Man books. It's all blurring together. This is exciting because this is the start of a new Joe Kelly run. Joe Kelly's written on Spider-Man before. He's done some Amazing Spider-Man issues, but I never think he's had like a proper run with Amazing Spider-Man before. So this is interesting, though I don't know if he actually has a run proper or if he's getting to do a story or two and then moving on. Either way, Wells is out, this is in, and I also got 62 as well. This has been a mile a minute. It's a fun book. Doom is now the Sorcerer Supreme in Marvel, apparently. I didn't know that. It was tied to something with Blood Hunt, which I only read a couple tie-in issues for a series that I've been reading otherwise, mostly Fantastic Four, which those issues are great. This is not the best thing in my pile, but this is so much better than Amazing Spider-Man has been. This is some dumb, good Marvel comic book fun. I'm really kind of digging. And the other thing that's really interesting about this for me is this is Joe Kelly coming in again. I love a number of older Joe Kelly stories, and then there was a period where a lot of what he did I didn't love. He had a long run with Spider-Man and Deadpool. Didn't think much of that. And here, I mean, it's Spider-Man again, and the way he's writing it is very manic and moving, which is also in line with the other Spider-Man thing he did more recently, which was Nonstop Spider-Man, which became a couple other minis, I think, that was like one story keeping it go. They aren't doing the Dutch angle thing that they did a lot of in those comics, but like every few pages we're on to a new scene, we're doing something new. And overall, I think it's fun. Oh my gosh, I'm getting yelled at that I'm using filler words. So I think this is fun. I don't know if I have a ton to say about it, though, because it's not particularly deep. This is a lot of metaphysical stuff, which I tend to not like with my superhero stuff. But for this with Spider-Man, it's working. I think a lot of it is because it's a blend of Strange and Spider-Man, which has that Ditko root. So I don't know. It's fun. I like it. There you go. The best Spider book this month was again Spectacular Spider-Men with Miles and Peter, and also dealing with something. But what's interesting is the new angle is a character that can kind of summon up elemental fire, water, whatever it is, with different emotions, and then they call in other characters to try to help train her. So they bring in like Hydro Man and then the Human Torch. This book was interesting. It was fun. What was also really telling for me about this book is, whereas this is the Spectacular Spider-Men, this story is through them kind of frequenting ESU, which is blending in with the NYX book as well. That's going right now that has a number of the X-Men characters. Well, Miss Marvel is an X-Men character now, but that was one of them. Coming in on this book as well, because they're at ESU, it just felt more natural, and like letting the locale kind of bring things together and dealing with someone else who's having a problem, and their interest is to try to help. I, I guess what I'm trying to say there is this used to be more standard fare. This didn't feel so novel years ago, and when I was younger, reaching back for older issues, this is the sort of thing that would happen very frequently. And now reading a comic where the heroes are just trying to help someone feels more unique. And I think that's a problem. And I've heard people bring this up a number of different ways, but what it boils down to is when every superhero story becomes so personal and is about them dealing with kind of the evil they set up, which is rampant throughout like the Marvel movies. They're not really helping people. They're dealing with the situation and rising above, which is good. No, I'm not saying there isn't a place for that. What I'm saying is when you have superhero comic fare, not every issue can be groundbreaking, can be the death of Gwen Stacy or the death of whoever, whatnot. There has to be people with problems, and the heroes need to help. And that allows you to bring in new stories, new characters, new ideas, and not have to fight for it. But I think a lot of this started churning around the time that the movies did start coming in, and the rights and all that, because they're afraid to create new IP and the jostling over the rights and all that. And you need fresh blood to tell stories. And so I enjoyed this for that, and it was a fun Marvel extravaganza issue without boasting it or trumpeting it or making too big of a deal about it. And it wasn't a bunch of people fighting, it was a bunch of people helping, and I really liked that. Next up was Spider-Man Black Suit and Blood, one of these kind of monochromatic looking books. At this point, I think there's more that's been made of the Black Suit era as nostalgia than there was of the Black Suit era proper when it was just running, with Spider-Man having the alien suit and whatnot. And I gotta be honest, I don't think it's that interesting. Not that it was a bad idea or anything, but it's not that interesting. Few things or nothing really is. So a lot of this is landing flat for me. Next up is Spider-Man Reign 2, because they had to do it again. And I guess what's really interesting about this is if you went back and read Spider-Man Reign, it was playing with some of the mythos and whatnot of Spider-Man back then that had been consistent mythos. But now, in between when Reign 1 happened and this, they're bringing in a lot of that. So you have Miles, you have Gwen as in Spider-Gwen or Ghost Spider, whatever. And it all kind of plays in, but this is wacky, zany. The art style for Spider-Man Reign. It sure is a book. I don't know. Changing gears, there's this Captain America run. We're 15 issues in now, and I feel like I'm starting to get a bit more. This is really fun because you can tell that this is J. Michael Straczynski playing in his corner what he wants to do with Marvel, or reaching back to stuff with his Thor run that he wanted to come back to, bringing Captain America in because he has to at this point, I guess, and then Spider-Man, which he famously did a mostly good run of. And it's these three together, and you can see why A, he likes these characters and why they're his favorite. B, why he thinks this works as a team. And I really do see it, and it's really interesting to put them on a case. But what's also interesting about the case and what they've been doing with a lot of Captain America is JMS is using Captain America as kind of the hero does right by doing, and doing the work that not necessarily others will. So he access something dealing with the mutants, where this kind of started, by dealing with stuff on the fringes and stuff that you wouldn't see in an X-Men comic. Now he's dealing with stuff on more the mystical side by going to where people wouldn't necessarily be dealing with things, and Thor felt like something was missed, and bringing in these characters that are the ones to do more as well. And I think there's something here, and it gets to what I was saying about the Spectacular Spider-Man issue, is that it's heroes helping, and it's heroes going out of their way to do something for others, because that's more what heroes do. And that's really, I think, the backbone and a lot of the theming of this Captain America run, now that we have a pattern established. But also just seeing, I guess in his mind, Captain America is like the purest distillation of a hero. And so it's not necessarily as much fun. So he's bringing Spider-Man to have fun and have a bit more humanity. But he's also using that as a counterweight to make Captain America then appear more noble and whatnot. And it's a really interesting way to go about it. What's more fascinating about it for me is having read a handful of Captain America runs more recently, not as much as I should have, and not some of the bigger ones like Brubaker, but like the Rucka run and a couple others. I really appreciate that JMS is doing something fresh with it, and this isn't going to be the most standout Captain America run of all time, because he's not trying to rewrite the mythos, he's not trying to change the character, he's not trying to create this epic moment that will live in infamy forever, like bringing back Bucky or something, which, thank goodness. I still kind of hate that decision. But by having Captain America just do and have these interesting stories, and it's the level where I love my comics. So I'm excited by that. And I'm excited to read the next issue and what comes next. I just can't wait for that next issue next month, and that's where it should be. The polar opposite end, well, not polar opposite, but Daredevil 15. For all that we've had through Ahmed's run so far, I think this is the best issue. It's dealing with Elektra and Matt finally having a moment to catch up and talk for a hot minute, dealing with the fallout of all these demons, and the fact that Matt was taken on as this like personal thing, and Ahmed having him talk to a priest and whatnot, be like, that's kind of ridiculous even for the religious angle that he's putting forward. And it felt like it's the most down-to-earth issue of this run so far, but it's still kind of far out there. Kingpin isn't even in this issue, so I don't know what that's about with the cover. I don't know. I haven't been loving this run. I think it's the worst Daredevil run that we've had in a long time. And I wasn't a particular fan of Zdarsky, but there's still something here. And I think the strength of the characters shining through. But I kind of want to move on from this moment with the character, because even for the more modern, spilled out, decompressed stuff, we're 15 issues in on this run. We're still dealing with kind of what was set up in issue 1. And I would so much like to move on to a new story. And I feel like I'm locked in. Which brings me to my next book, Deadpool 8. I just started skimming. This, to me, is the worst Deadpool run we've had in a long time, which is doubly baffling because this is the longest proper Deadpool run we've had in years. And I just don't care. A lot of it's dealing with the symbiote dog, a lot of it's dealing with his daughter, and the writing, the jokes, that it's not connecting with me. And I've liked some more recent runs. I like when the dog was brought in a bit more on Wong's run previously, and that is my least favorite element of that run, I think. Um, this just isn't connecting. I'm letting go of that book and hoping that Deadpool comes back better. Deadpool's a character I loved a while ago, and more recently, I don't know. Maybe it's time to just move on, which is fine because I've been finding more love for characters like Captain America, or I've been reading a lot of Fantastic Four or Daredevil, and wasn't doing that before. Okay, and then shifting gears a bit more, Ultimate Black Panther. This book is incredible. It's setting up this war between Wakanda and the land of Moon Knight. So it's like this Khonshu versus Panther God thing as well, all in Africa, bringing in a bunch of characters for the Ultimate Universe. But I mean, like, you have Moon Knight, you have Storm, you have the whole Black Panther cast. And to me, this is the best Black Panther book that's been around in a long time. It's just building and building. What's also really cool to me is in this book, Black Panther's married to his wife obsessively, but not one of the more prominent characters otherwise, which is great because that means there's a lot of female characters that are running around in this book as well, and they get to just do their thing. They don't have to have this romance thing because that knot's already tied, which is really interesting in the sense of a Marvel book, because that lets the Marvel characters be more like Marvel characters and not have this will they won't they sort of thing, and it's helping the book move along. Though interestingly, from that angle, they're introducing a sorceress supreme, and they're giving her a boob window. It's just it's so weird because especially in this book compared to almost any other book, it just feels so out of place. Um, and also with something like the Sorceress Supreme, I feel like modesty would be part of that character, so it feels weird to me. I don't know. On the flip side, we have Spider-Man 11, which, despite the cover, is actually more about Peter talking to MJ about actually getting into fights and whatnot. It's about Peter connecting with Ben on the anniversary of May's death, and it's about some of kind of the plumbing and building of the enemies and a couple side characters that are moving through, and Harry's absence leads to an interesting moment. This is something that's really cool. Okay, so on some level, I think Hickman wanted Spider-Man to just do a Spider-Man thing, but he's had this build up with Harry being there and the Green Goblin and whatnot. And so rather than just kind of eschewing it or just letting Spider-Man do something solo, because they've been patrolling, Harry stands him up for the patrol, and then something happens. So Pete jumps in because he's not going to stand by, but he tries to get a hold of him first. So rather than just kind of eschewing it, bringing the mold of the previous 10 issues and putting it forward makes this book stand out and help, but it just shows the strength of the writing and the characters that they're going for, and letting the action be secondary to the drama, which is necessary for comics, but the action here isn't anything to scoff at either, and it's then brought in more drama on the other end with the MJ talk. And what's also really cool here, and something I don't hear enough people talk about with this book in singing its praises, which I have to be honest, I pretty much only hear praise for this book. Hickman is humanizing the characters and whatnot in a big way, and the emotional truth is there in a major way, and dealing with being a superhero and all that is being explored in such a great way, which is even crazier to me because Hickman is the guy who I always would pick to do the giant world ending Avengers level stuff where the mechanics of the world and kind of rule setting or the bigger picture would be there, but often the character moments might be kind of put aside to make room for all of the headier stuff, which definitely did happen often in his Fantastic Four run. I know that there are issues with humanizing, and Spider-Man was a very popular issue of that he did do, and I do know he was capable of that, but it was usually more of these standout things. They almost had to like isolate it, and he couldn't blend it. And now that he's blending it, I mean, I don't know if this is a hot take or I don't really care, but I mean, to me, not only is this the best Spider-Man book going, but this is the best Hickman book I've ever read, and I like a chunk of what Hickman did. I think I was more negative on Hickman for a number of other things that some other people did like, but I think it's because I wanted something more like this, and now that we're here, incredible. and it's crazy like how far of a cry it is in a number of ways from his like old, the weekly nightly news or some of the other weird indies he did before he broke into Marvel proper and doing all that. Just an incredible leveling up for the author. Next is the Ultimate 6 and 7, which have major plot relevancies and whatnot, but also each issue of this book with the countdown, it's coming in 10 months, 9 months. The build forward in this book has been incredible and really brings home kind of the Black Panther book thing in a way. Like, I think part of the reason this Ultimates line is moving is because every issue feels like an installment, and so everything feels like it matters. I know there's been a lot of back and forth through the years about how important is continuity and all that. I think when you have tight stories that kind of bridge together or are part of a universe and where things can bend on each other the way that Marvel does, and you have these books that are moving at a pace where time matters, setting matters, characters matter, and in no big way. I mean, part of the reason the Ultimates feels so big, with the whole diversity argument, I mean, Hawkeye's the Native American character. You have America being Hispanic American, and all these different flavors of the world, the colors of people, their cultures blending together and not getting along so well in the way the Avengers normally do, feels bigger than 8 white people hanging out in a room. I just there's a worldliness there that makes the sense of scale larger. Just with the same number of people sitting in a room, but their personalities, their backgrounds, and whatnot coming through, brings in an element that you used to only get in X-Men. I think it's part of the reason X-Men did a hair better, and so this is really exciting to read. And then we're left with Ultimate X-Men. This book is, for all the things I'm saying about all the other Ultimate line books, this is none of that. It doesn't feel like it's part of this line. And I think it shouldn't be. And I know a lot of people like this book. I've seen some people sing its praises, but when I ask for something a little more substantial to it, I think it's neat. Okay, fine. I have books like that too. I wouldn't necessarily expound on it, but I like them. Kind of what I was saying with Amazing at the top. But Peach Momoko's done other books before, and this is similar to those. And just do that. Let her have her own book, do her thing. Let Marvel publish it. People like it, fine. But it just doesn't connect to the rest of these Ultimate books. It doesn't have that feel. It doesn't have that momentum. It doesn't have that growth. It's not like these other comics. And so if you like it, fine. But I think if you like it, I don't think you'd find as much commonality with these other Ultimate books in contrast to other Marvel books, because this feels like manga playing with some Marvel characters. And that's it. And that's fine. I'm not, again, if you like it, you like it. I don't think it's holding up the line. So that's my Marvel books, and we'll be back soon with, well, probably more Marvel books, but X-Men. Yeah, cheers.